Hello, my name is Austin Myers, and I just am making a video to introduce my podcast that I'm starting. Yeah, I really didn't write a script. I just wanted this to be as organic as possible, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence to make sure I got myself out there. I'm not used to being in front of a camera at all. I don't even know where I'm supposed to be looking right now, but hopefully you guys can hear me all right. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast. Hopefully everything will work out. I want the type of podcast where I can just talk, and then from there I can just drop it and people will listen to it because it's that great of content. Okay, so I could save introductions for another video when I have a more polished idea of what I want to do. So for now, I'm just going to give a very direct answer to a lot of questions that you may have in the future, and then, probably at the beginning of next year, so January, I'll remake this video just so if anybody is subscribing and there's new people, they'll have a better understanding. So this is my first take. I didn't do any other takes, no cuts, no edits. And sorry about that, my phone vibrated. That might happen a few times. Let me see if I can fix it. Hold on. Okay. All right, yeah. So, like I said, my name is Austin Myers. I am an aspiring food critic. Oh yeah, I was gonna save introductions for another day. Okay, so the name of this podcast will be called Counterclockwise, and that's because in dining etiquette, like one of the first things you learn is to pass the food counterclockwise. That is considered the correct way. So what I wanted to do was make sure I, had that as an analogy because I want to spread education on the topics I want to talk about the correct way, as organically as possible, as rational as possible. Trying to give people an idea of what goes through in my mind, what I deem important, things like that. So, yeah. Okay, the goal of this podcast. This is definitely going to be a food, wine, travel, basically the culture around food and wine and the politics that surround it as well. So when it comes to the culture, for example, it would be, why is soul food called soul food? What does it count as? And what's the difference between soul food and, California style food or, Western style per se? Go into the politics of why are certain items taxed higher than other food items, things like that, and then compare and contrast as to different countries' food production and why people are still starving in this country when we make more than enough. So I don't want to get in too deep right now, but that's just an idea. When it comes to the wine is literally endless. When it comes to how much you can know, how deep you want to delve into each category. So yeah, we'll definitely have a future podcast where we'll go into detail as in what different wines there are, what grapes you can use, different techniques, how to get into wine tasting, things like that. So I've been told I look very young, but just to let you know, I am 23, and in America, you need to be 21 to drink, and I passed that. Other things would be, like I was saying, food production issues. So when it comes to food production issues, it's more about trying to understand, government-owned farms versus farmers selling to the state, why it is the way it is, the FDA, the USDA, going into detailed research and just an inquiry of the mind as to why things work the way that they do in food and beverage companies and just the industry as a whole. That also ties into world hunger. We do have Feeding America here, an organization. However, you would think that there's more that can be done, and simply is not happening right now. So, since that's a subject that I am passionate about, that's definitely something we can get into. World hunger is just that. It's world hunger. So, just because you think of, India or places in Africa, just off of stereotypes, there's hunger and starvation in every country, every province, every state, every territory, etc. So, yeah, I definitely feel like that's something that needs to be touched on more, and I want to be the one to bring it to light, so to speak. I also want to talk about traveling. So, this may be a podcast channel, but whenever I do travel, I do want to vlog, and then right after that, I'll have a podcast giving more details about how things went there. One of my goals is to go to Toronto next year. You know what I mean? So stuff like that can be a lot of fun. And the last thing is, in general, I want to promote a certain lifestyle. So how I see myself and the standards that I have for myself in the future would definitely consist of fine dining, the finer things in life in general, giving back, and treating the world as a precious item, not just something that we live on and we're going to die on, so it really doesn't matter anyway. Like, I definitely want to promote the finer things in life, and actually get you guys to perceive the finer things in life as not necessarily the most expensive thing in the room. Next thing I wanted to touch on is if anybody is going to ask, why start now? So I'm 23, and I feel like I'm coming up pretty late in the whole YouTube game. That's why I was considering starting a podcast website, but I figured since I'm just getting my start, it'll be good to start somewhere where I can literally upload for free, don't have to pay for a domain name, things like that. So, and there's a lot of other factors that I would like to get into as to why I'm starting now. So when it comes to me, I feel like I'm just now getting into the swing of things when it comes to who I am and what I want to become. A lot of times I was picking occupations that I felt other people would deem respectable or they would be envious. And I just learned that's not necessarily what I want to do. And I now found out I want to be a food writer, then a food critic, and eventually become an entrepreneur of sorts within the food and wine industry. I went through a phase of being shy. I would consider myself still shy, but clearly not as much. I'm sitting in front of a camera right now. I do have a ton of butterflies, but I'm going to have to get over if I want to reach the heights that I truly aim to reach. So just growing up shy, bullies, stuff like that, it just all added up where it felt like people weren't going to really listen to what I had to say. And at the age I am now, I'm starting to realize, oh, maybe I do have some poignant ideas that other people can care about. At this point, I'm just trying to break out of my shell. I feel like I'm just now cracking that shell, and I'm trying to just break free of that. So If you guys don't mind, this podcast, this channel will definitely be a diary or a journal, however you want to put it, of sorts, simply because I'm tired of staying to myself whenever I have a thought in my head, or oh, that's a good idea, but I never give it out because I feel like it's not worth it. So yeah, I just want to spread my message while also breaking out of my shell, reducing my shyness, and reaching greater heights. I want to give off that energy that I am in charge, and because I want to do that, I feel like being on YouTube and talking with whoever will listen is a big help. So anybody in the comment section that wants to help me out, I'm more than willing to learn more. And then when it comes to confidence, so I've always been confident about academics or understanding that I'm an intelligent individual. However, I don't get confident whenever other people are around or people ask for my input, because I just doubt that they really care enough. And that's just something within me. I don't know where that came from. I've always been like that. Who knows? That might be some deep down trauma that I just haven't figured out yet. But yeah, I feel like my confidence is rising more and more and more as I age, as I figure out life. So yeah, it's only for the best. I definitely am improving each and every day, and I can't wait till I'm at, my fullest potential, because I'm nowhere near where I want to be. So, and I just knew I had to start ASAP. They say if you wait for the perfect time, you'll never start. So I feel like no matter how rough my first podcasts are or my first vlogs are, I feel like I had to start, or else I'll never gain the skill to talk in front of a camera, to talk in front of people, and to like truly be myself. I want to gain a following. I want to be that person that people can reach out to. I can answer their questions. I can be there for them. Anything like that. And I feel like this is my time. It's almost Halloween, and I guess that is a good analogy because it's something that's very scary. But just like trick or treating, there's a possibility you can get a reward in the end. So not to be too metaphorical on you guys, but yeah, that's honestly how I feel. So next, the schedule of this podcast now. I am a line cook currently, just trying to get my feet wet in the food industry, the restaurant world. And my schedule definitely changes all the time. Majority of it is afternoon, from around 2, 3 to 11 midnight. And I don't always have days off consecutively or routine weekly. But I do know that I always have Mondays off. And I want to do as much as I can to stick to a schedule, because I feel like consistency is the key to success. A lot of times it's the effort that you put into making sure you're there on time. Like today, I try to make sure that the podcast began at 1:05. And so far so good. It did start at 1:05 my time. So then in the future when I go live and the time starts at 1:05, you can trust and believe that it'll start exactly when I say it will. So when it comes to the time length, I'm probably gonna keep it at like a TV show length. So probably like 25 to 30 minutes. But I would like to get up to an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, especially if I have, a subject that I can just go on and on and on about, and I would like to go into further detail. But yeah, for now, like I said, like 20 to 30 minutes, definitely on Mondays. When it comes to the time of day, probably around this time as well. I'll definitely keep you guys updated if something changes, but just know so far Mondays will be podcast day. And I'll just see the return and see if people in the comment section were saying, the podcast needs to happen more often, and I will definitely do that. All I need is one person saying it needs to happen more often, and I promise you, I'll be all over that. I'll do a podcast every single day if you guys want me to. But yeah, just let me know. So for now, every Monday at 1:05 Central Standard Time. So let's see what I want to talk about next. I put Irish cream in my coffee, so trying something new out. I like it a lot. Okay, also too, I wanted to start this podcast because I was suffering with a fear of missing out, FOMO, for people who are trendy. And basically it's because I've just seen people do better things in life through unorthodox approaches. I'm not talking about like the YouTube millionaires that you see, but just people who have tried and tried and tried to succeed any way possible, and they eventually broke through. I'm not saying I'm the first one to do it, but I'm just saying now that I've started, my goal is to be the best to ever do it. So I just want to make sure I'm doing whatever it takes to make it in life, to be where I want to be, to have my voice heard. So I just did not want to miss out. I did not want to be 33, 10 years later, and look back and be like, oh man, I knew I should have started it, because if I would have started it 10 years ago, look how far. Who knows how far I'll be 10 years from now in this podcast. Who knows where YouTube will be, to be honest. But we all have to start somewhere, and I feel like this is a fantastic start. So yeah, the name of the podcast is going to be called Counterclockwise. It'll be so far every Monday at 1:05 Central Standard Time. We'll discuss food and wine, culture and politics, world hunger, to traveling, and maintaining a certain lifestyle in the fine dining world, at home, just elevating yourself to be a critic of your own. So I'm just trying to break out of my shell and not be a hermit anymore. I guess I really am a hermit because I'm still in my apartment, but yeah, so I just thank you for anyone that was listening. Please, in the comments, tell me what I'm doing good, what I'm doing bad. Like I said, this is my first podcast, first time on YouTube. I'm just trying to get into the swing of things. So see you next time, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.